If the thought of your favorite team suddenly vanishing from Tier 1 is making you sweat, I promise you aren't just being paranoid. Don't let Masters London concluding distract you from the fact that Riot has announced more info for VCT 2027. The highlight of it is the reduction of partnered teams from 10 to 8, which destroys the hopes of some of our favorite orgs. Welcome to snstry, and today we are breaking down the math behind this impending purge, the regions about to be left out in the cold, and the bottomless pit that is the open qualifiers. Stay tuned because the clock is already ticking. And this time we're talking about Pacific teams, but get this video to 200 likes and I'll also make one for Americas. Okay, since the regions are listed here, it would be a good start to pick one team for each region. So for South Korea, T1 is definitely locking in the spot for me. And it's not even a debate. They aren't just an org, they are an absolute giant in the industry, although their Valorant team might not look that way recently. But regardless of how their roster actually performs though, Riot is never going to close the door on the biggest esports brand in existence. For Japan, we'll go with DFM over Zeta because they have been performing better recently, and when Riot's main metric seems to be selling team capsules, you would want your partnered teams to be competitive so that they advance deep into tournaments, therefore gaining more exposure, leading to more skin sales. For Thailand, it has to be full sense, right? They are the obvious frontrunners to lock down that slot. Unless Buriram Esports suddenly decides they want in on the fun, and I heard that they're really a big org. For Indonesia, let's just say RRQ are the frontrunners. They have such a loyal and massive fan base that trying to compete with them for that regional spot is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. And now this next one's interesting because I'm fairly certain that for the longest time, Vietnam didn't have representation in the VCT. However, seeing how massive and hyped that Ho Chi Minh crowd was in the Pacific Finals, I think Riot is looking to tap into that community.
Wanna tap it?
But here's the thing, are there any Vietnamese teams ready for the Tier 1 level? I haven't heard much from the Vietnamese Val community, but Fancy United seems to be a team that can represent the region. So for now, whoever this logo is, let's just say it's Fancy United, okay? And maybe Crazy Guy can come home and play with them as well, no? And then now, for the wildcard region. It's obviously PaperX, right? But is it valid? Like, would everyone pass? Like, won't they be breaking any rules? I need to check this. Because you need 3 players from the region and only 2 imports, right? So let me just get this real quick. For Philippines, it's obviously Envy. In Malaysia, we have Davai. And in Singapore, we have Jing. Okay, I think it's good. I mean, we are importing Forsaken from Indonesia and something from Russia. I got nervous for no reason, bro. We now have 6 teams, which means that there are only 2 slots left for APAC. But we still have DRX, Gen G, GE, Zeta, and Team Secret. But I think there's one team whose application Riot is most likely not going to accept. But before I reveal that shit, I'd like to present my newly made Patreon page. I figured, hey, maybe I can interest you in joining the unnamed community, and by doing so, you can gain access to a lot more Valorant content, some of my insights from the esports side of Valorant, as well as stuff I do not cover on YouTube. Stuff like the controversies, the issues, or your favorite, the spicy dramas that the Val community seems to have an endless supply of. Not only that, but you will also get my weekly burn book, where you can see my unfiltered and maybe biased takes on all teams. You don't want to miss what I have to say about a certain team whose identity should remain secret for the time being. And you'll also get the flash briefings where I quickly share my 2 cents about recent VCT happenings, and lastly, you get featured at the end of each video. There are other tiers available, but I'd argue this one is already packed with the good stuff, so check it all out below. And there's no need to be coy about it, it's Team Secret. There's just no way Filipino Valorant is getting its own slot based on how Team Secret performed, especially recently. Besides, we already have enough representation on other teams. An all-Filipino team would have been really awesome, but it's not meant to be. It definitely sucks, but it is the hand that was dealt for us. So that's one team out of the way, but there are still 4 remaining and 2 slots left. I'm really interested to see how Riot approaches this, but I think this will heavily lean on the healthiest ecosystems, which are South Korea and Japan. And this is how I think it would go. We hear Riot XX discuss revenue when they're making the rounds.
Going back to like what I was saying at the beginning, 100K for people that qualify for cups. Do the partner teams, is that the same that they would be getting as well?
For partner teams, we haven't talked a ton about this yet, but we can share a little bit right now in terms of, it'll be a little bit more variable based on how much rev share.
And it's pretty safe to say that it's a big part of the equation when it comes to picking a partner team. And I think we don't need to look far to know which regional fan base has the most spending power to support their favorite players. And I don't know about you, but this leaves a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth because I feel like prioritizing team capsule sales over the raw passion of the Indian and the Filipino fan bases feels like a betrayal of some sort. And with that said, I have a feeling that the last 2 slots would go to DRX and Gen G. And you might be fuming right now because it's not fair, but the reality of the matter is, nothing in this life or in this world is fair. But let's discuss what does this mean for GE. Despite the massive player base, India was unable to secure its own region, and this is likely due to 2 reasons. One is that the player base is undeniably massive, but that doesn't necessarily translate to a lot of them watching the VCT. There is a hard line between people who play Valorant and people who actually watch the esport. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, there is another reason, the revenue factor. We don't have the full picture here, but if you look at the top 5 team capsules in Pacific, there are 3 Korean teams in the mix. And as brutal as it is, Riot is not handing over franchise slots out of charity when they can just prioritize guaranteed capsule sales. We don't really need to make guesses on where GE is placed on that list because the list already tells what we need to know. And that's why I think Gen G and DRX or maybe even Nongshim are the teams that will complete the 8 partnered teams by 2027. But with the arrival of this new format comes a lot of questions that beg to be asked. Questions like, is being a partnered team in 2027 still a big deal? Because when you think about it, the VCT is more open now, right? So let's actually get to the bottom of it and discuss the advantages of being a partner team. In terms of tournaments, the only big advantage partnered teams have over non-partnered teams is the automatic qualification in kickoff. But after that, everybody is on the same ground, as all teams would need to grind through the open qualifiers. Aside from this, the advantages of a partnered team are more on the monetary side of things, including stipends, team capsule revenue, and performance bonuses. And although the money is a nice advantage in terms of building infrastructure and providing resources for the team and the players, I'm sure non-partnered teams will be able to find a way to be competitive. If they're driven enough, I'm sure nothing is impossible. So for the cut teams such as GE, Zeta, and Team Secret, the reality of what comes next is undoubtedly a significant challenge as they are thrown into the fire. One day they were living the tier 1 life, then the next they're suddenly forced to fight for their survival in open qualifiers against teams who are dying to know what it's like to be at the top. If the current format we're familiar with is a structured path, we all need to change the way we look at the games completely. Riot is definitely looking for the VCT to get bigger, and along with that comes more risks and a complete lack of guaranteed Riot stipends, forcing all of that desperation through a tiny bottleneck for a chance at tier 1. When one bad series in an open bracket can effectively bankrupt an organization, the rules of engagement changes entirely. It stops looking like a professional esports tournament and starts looking exactly like the War of the Five Kings. It's every man for himself. Anyway, that is my prediction on which teams will make it to partnership. What are your thoughts on this 8 partnered team update? As always, thank you for your time. I'll see you down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, hit that sub button so you don't miss out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.